That's good. Like,
Just skip it.
You were a big.
Oh, John B.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it finish right now?
I know.
Just like, yes. I mean, he's official.
Okay, I think we can start. Hopefully that's John Bagley.
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Facilities Committee. And present at the beginning
Recording in progress.
are Councilor Kelly from Ward 3, Councilor Dan Bird from Ward 6, Councilor President Laredo from Ward 7, Councilor Getz from Ward 5, Councilor Leary from Ward 1, Councilor Gentile from Ward 4. I'm missing somebody. Kayla, is he here? No. Okay, and myself, Susan Albright from Ward 2. The first, we have one item before we get to the grants of location. So John Bagley is here to present, and let me read it into the record. Oh, we have Katie Holden for our committee clerk. This is 467-24. Veronica Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $997,942. And authorize a general obligation borrowing of an equal amount for the construction of the Union Street main drain extension. Main drainage extension. So, Mr. Daglian, what would you like to tell us about this?
Yes, good evening. As you know, we had Weston and Sampson, our consultant, design a stormwater collection system that's approximately 650 feet in length. It starts from it starts at Langley Road and will go east to west direction towards Herrick Road. And new catch basins will be put in to capture the stormwater runoff that's coming off Herrick Road to Hill, and it'll prevent any flooding in the localized area of the roadway. We expect the construction to begin in mid-January and to be completed by late March or early April. And the work will take place primarily at night between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. to minimize any impact to the businesses and the residents.
Okay, Okay, thank you for that. Counselor Danver.
Thank you. This story goes back more than a few years now. When one of the main buildings on Union Street attempted to connect their drain into the city sewer because at the time, the drain was coming out onto the sidewalk, and in the wintertime, you can imagine, it created a lot of ice and dangerous conditions on the sidewalk, and in the summertime, you would get your shoes full of water when you walked along the sidewalk, and it was obvious that this was gonna be a good plan. And when they looked at the city plans, you realized that there was no sewer, there was no stormwater, there was no stormwater pipe that went down Union Street at all, there just didn't exist. So this is to remedy that. I'm thrilled to see that we're moving forward with it, and I hope that everyone will say yes.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Not Counselor Dental either, I can see him, he must be here somewhere. Yeah. Okay, then.
And I will move approval, when, if everyone is, happy and doesn't, there's no more comments.
Sounds like we're all set.
I'm gonna recuse myself.
Okay, so Counselor Laredo, President Laredo will be recused.
I just wanna say I thank you for that history, because I didn't know that was the situation over there, that there was no.
It shocked everyone.
So thank you for providing that to us.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good, good.
All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? And one recusal. All right.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Daglian. So now I think what we should do is open all of these public hearings, reopen all of these public hearings at the same time, and everybody wants to comment on them. And we have several people from National Grid here who we can introduce in a moment. Let me just re-establish that these are opening up tonight. 396-24. Which is many grants and requests for location on Center Street. 397-24, requesting grants and location on Walnut Street. 398-24, requesting grants and location on Washington Street. 399-24, grant and location on Canterbury Road. And 419-24, grants and location on Beacon Street. Have we ever had a presentation, an initial presentation on the Beacon Street one?
Yeah, last meeting.
We did, okay. All right, we didn't discuss that one as much because it came in later. But, so we had a public hearing, many questions that we asked and the public asked. And National Grid sent us answers. So folks from Amy and others from National Grid, would you like to join us at the table?
Bring another chair to all of them.
Yeah.
Just try your chair.
Absolutely. Amy says, I don't know all of those, but maybe you can introduce them and tell us who they are, their titles and all that.
Nice to see you in person. Thank you, yes, no, it's wonderful to be here. So my name is Ned, with National Grid, I'm the director on our regulatory team, and been with National Grid for 34 years, and primarily working in the gas side of the business. On a lot of regulatory issues, construction issues, happy to be here. And with me is Mary Mulroney, and Mary, you probably are most familiar with here.
On the screen, always.
And here she is, right, and Mary is responsible for preparing all of the official packages that we have here for our filings. And then Tim Saporito, who's our community relations manager for Newton. She's in here for a lot of different issues today, and she.
Thank you for being in person, that's really nice.
Yeah.
So besides all of the information that you sent us, and thank you very much for answering all of our questions, I think that was great. Is there anything else that you wanna start off with on any of these? No?
If you have any additional information,
Okay.
I'm certainly happy to follow up on if there's any responses and clarify or any details or issues of the project.
So why don't we start by asking if there's any questions within the committee on this, and then we can reopen the public hearings. Anybody here? No? No.
I think I prefer to hear from the public first anyway.
Okay.
Thank you for getting back to us now in 2 rounds to answer some of the questions that we submitted, so that's helpful.
So, the public hearing is open, so we're just now asking if there's anybody who would like to speak tonight. And if you would, just raise your hand and I will call on you as we go along, and, if you're online and you would like to speak, there should be a raise hand button. You can click that, or if you can't find the raise hand button, just wave your hand in front of it, so we will find you. So should we start? Mr. Bear, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Just tell us your name and address.
Peter Barrow, 60 Endicott Street. Can I pull up a little bit here?
Sure.
So I have a lot to say, but I'm gonna say it very briefly. It's- I propose that the committee hold these items again. And I'm gonna give you some, my reasons why that should be done. But I'm gonna start with one question, which is, all of these petitions are proposing to abandon pipe in streets. And they're all in major streets: Center Street, Walnut Street, Beacon Street, Boylston Street, Washington Street. We've heard that, Highland Ave is too crowded with pipes. And I wonder if we've gotten information from our Department of Public Works that it makes sense to abandon pipe in these major
I'm
streets.
gonna answer that. I did put the question forth to Shauna Sullivan. She said she would get back to me, but probably not by the meeting tonight. But that it is their typical opus modus operandi to not request that they be not abandoned, that they be taken out, because I think, as she understands it, we have to pay for that.
I'm not sure that's true.
So we have not gotten the formal answer from, I asked her, please give me chapter and verse on your answers,
Mhm.
and I haven't gotten it yet.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking about it, and the eventuality of network geothermal, we need extra room in the streets to run pipes, and this would leave a pipe in the way. And I think we need, an opinion about that. I've got a very brief review of these GOLs. I sent them out in emails, and if anyone would like an up-to-date copy, yes.
Maybe you
Maybe
guys
you
want
share.
to today?
When you said.
I sent one today, this is a little bit updated.
Send one down.
It's
to
pretty
the
much the
next
same.
folks.
Thank you.
Here,
Um,
here are 2 more copies. Oh, great. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna zip through these really quickly.
Okay.
The one for Center Street, I think is an incomplete Department of Public Works review. Because the engineerings were just submitted yesterday. And the DPW review is dated October 16th. So I don't know how DPW was able to complete a review on the drawings they received, later. And there's, really insufficient time for any public review of those drawings.
Should we deal with them as we go along? So, Mr. Daglian, are you still there? Because,
Yes.
when I spoke with Ms. Sullivan, I think it was yesterday, she said that you got some initial plans, and then you got more detailed plans yesterday, as Mr. Bear said. Did you get enough plans to be able to review them or not?
That's correct. We got updated plans yesterday for the whole alignment.
So you didn't have the plans before that?
We only had a portion of it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. On Walnut Street, you know, I propose that the retiring the pipes on Floral and Floral Street and Floral Place makes a lot more sense. And electrifying the homes on those streets rather than replacing those pipes in those streets now. The GOL says Walnut Street, but actually there's a lot more streets are involved in each one of these than the title of the project. In Washington Street, which is 398-24, I think that's incomplete. There's no published Department of Public Works review and recommendation on that petition. And I'd also add that there are a number of small cul-de-sacs in that GOL, which would be single fed from only one direction by the gas system, and are really ideal potential electrification zones. And that should be considered instead of replacing new pipe to retire the pipes that's there. On Canterbury Road, same thing, there's no published DPW review and recommendation. And also in that zone, I think the whole, it says Canterbury Road, but there are many other streets that are involved in that proposal. And I'd suggest that it would be much cheaper if the money were available to electrify all the homes rather than putting in new pipes in those streets. And finally, the new GOL is Beacon Street. And that's an ideal location for electrification. The neighborhood has expressed strong interest in getting off gas. And in our conversation with Amy Smith a couple of weeks ago, I suggested that would be a good location. She hasn't gotten back to us yet on why that, why they, you know.
Is there anyone on Garland Road who's still on gas?
I'm sure there are, yes, I'm sure there are.
I know that road.
Okay.
Green Road.
Yeah.
Very great.
Yeah, very good.
So, I want to close with one plea to you, which is that there's an important issue of city authority that we are dealing with. And when the legislature added retirement to the scope of the GSEP program, I think that added a whole new element of city involvement that's really required. We you got a letter from National Grid's lawyer that really illustrates the lack of city authority. The lawyer said, we don't have to answer these questions, but to be nice, we'll answer it. You know, that's a sense, that's a frustration that if I was sitting in your seat, I would feel very frustrated that you can't even get information about work that's being done in our streets. National Grid often installs new GSEP pipes without getting a petition for a grant of location. It just goes ahead and does it. So I would strongly encourage you to take leadership and the city take leadership to exercise its authority in this area, particularly when retirement is such an important issue.
So I want to respond to that one, because that's another one that I asked Ms. Sullivan about. Now, she said, and maybe you guys can help, she said that there's a Mass General law that said, it says if the pipe is within 2 feet of another pipe, you don't have to request a granted location, but I said, please give me chapter and verse of that. So if you know the answer to that question, it would be very helpful.
Normally, the granted locations are at the request of the city and town we're installing it. For example, Newton's rule is usually anything beyond 2 feet, you have to request a granted
So that's
location.
different.
Yep, and then if you went to Watertown, they have certain criteria that they follow.
Okay,
They implement that on us. We're not allowed to just install pipe unless there's in an instance of no pipe there, but that doesn't exist. We're not installing new pipe, we're doing main replacement majority of the time. So for example, if it's below the 2 feet window in Newton, Public Works is well aware before we start any projects. We meet with them monthly and more if necessary about specific issues or projects. And then we plan and coordinate. So if we're gonna be doing main replacement and then they're gonna be doing water work. We're out of their way when they need to come in, or vice versa, so that each of us isn't digging up the same street.
So that's good that we know now that the rule of branch of location is guided by the city, which says that if it's 2 feet, within 2 feet of another pipe, you don't have to give us asbestos. So I don't think the law department didn't even know that. So thank you for bringing it up.
Um, and it allows National Grid to replace pipe, install pipe where, you know, in coordination with the DPW, understand. But it never comes before this body or the city council. I'm writing a comment on the current GSEP application to the DPW, to the Department of Public Works, which is gonna lay out a rationale and ability for municipalities to take more control over what's going on in light of the requirement to look at retirement. Because retirement is a big issue, and very important. You need to involve a lot of actors in the city. And it's it's not finished yet. I wanna provide it to you and to the committee as soon as it's done. And invite you to submit your own comments. Comments are due by December 19th. So there's plenty of time, and I'd encourage this committee and the city to weigh in on their ability to influence retirement versus replacement. And I'm eager to discuss any of this at length, but I said I'd be short, so I am.
Well, thank you for all of that. So why don't we hear from
Sure.
others and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Who was the next person? Thank you. You're welcome to come and join us here if you want to. If you want to. It's up to you.
I'm Rhonda Jacobson, I live at 35 Garland Road, near the center. Garland Road. Garland Road, where some of us being very responsible, put in really good burners a number of years ago. So every time and they're evaluated, they say, you should not change this gas burner because it's extremely efficient. I'm just here to say that in terms of passing along the expense of new versus repaired, I am from the generation of repairing. And I would like there to be ample consideration of repairing these pipelines rather than replacing. I think probably, from what I've read, that's cost efficient and that it will be less disruptive on the streets.
Thank you. Take someone else along here. Yeah, please.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Golden. I'm also from Garland Road. I've thought ignoring Garland Road since talking about it so much. Let you take one below. So I'm 19 Garland. Garland Road is part of one of National Grid's requests for replacing pipe. So you'll see here my little Mickey Mouse drawing of Garland. It's a real short street, goes from Beacon to Homer. National Grid has requested a permit to replace the non-leaking pipe. 600 feet of non-leaking pipe, perfectly good pipe that runs from Beacon Street to Brentwood. The cost of that is going to be several $100,000. It turns out that this one little part of leaking pipe here in the dashed line is not leaking, and it is also not going to fix the one active gas leak on the street. There is an active gas leak on the other part of Garland, and National Grid wants to replace the non-leaking pipe. The leak on Garland Road will not be repaired by this several $100,000 expenditure on my dime and your dime. They're going to spend, if you do the calculation, assuming about $500 to $600 of pipe replacement, they're going to spend almost 50 times as much of ratepayers' money replacing the non-leaking pipe as they would by simply fixing the active leak. So that's as if I call a plumber to fix my leaking faucet. And the plumber comes and says, oh, yeah, Howard, I'm gonna give you this brand new toilet. Even though you have a perfectly fine toilet, I'm not gonna fix your leak, but I'll charge you 50 times as much to give you a toilet that you don't need. I don't want this new pipe. I want you to fix the old pipe. So I'm asking that you, in your city authority, deny the permits to waste our money. It's larger than just Garland Road, though. National Grid is using the cost recovery and this loophole of leak-prone pipes to expand their system to prepare for hydrogen at the ratepayer's expense. Hydrogen is made from natural gas. It's just a way to lock in the fossil fuels. Hydrogen is also much more explosive than methane. I don't want it in my house, neither do you. Like it leaks more, it explodes more readily. Why on earth would National Grid want to switch to hydrogen? I don't want it and no one's going to. So they're saddling us, the ratepayer, with new expense for a system that is going to last for decades. Furthermore, especially on Garland Road, but also elsewhere in Newton, there's a growing share of residents who are going off of natural gas. So if we are just going to be adding more, if we're improving the pipe system as opposed to retiring the pipe system, eventually our children are going to be stuck with a stranded asset that makes no sense. So I'm asking you today to use your city authority to deny National Grid's use of this loophole of leak-prone pipe replacement and instead use the same money to actually fix the leaking pipes. This is what they should be doing, this is the ethical thing to be doing, and I want you to enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we have one more person in the room and then we'll go to the web.
Good evening, Dr. Enrique Rosero, 19 Garland Road. For the past 2 years, I worked for National Grid in their gas and electric load forecasting section as lead data scientist, supporting distribution planning, supply procurement, and rate case testimony. Tonight, I'm testifying against their request. I'm opposed because their request is tantamount to you agreeing to have hydrogen pumped in Newton's streets, and because its cost will burden the current and next generation of residents. So allow me to elaborate this. First, good luck contacting National Grid customer service if something goes wrong during construction. National Grid's poor customer satisfaction scores resulted this year alone in over $1 million in fines from the Public Service Commission, the New York equivalent of our DPU, for failing to meet customer standards and delayed response for gas system issues. Second, National Grid is already testing blends of up to 30% hydrogen and 70% methane in New York, and readying up the gas distribution system in both New York and New England. Hydrogen, as Lindsay said, is more likely to explode than methane. It's also more prone to leak because it's lighter. Hydrogen is also neither green nor clean, but produced by an inefficient process that uses methane as feedstock.
Yeah.
Studies in the UK have shown that heating with electricity is several times more efficient than using hydrogen. Your approval would give National Grid tacit blessing for their hydrogen plants. Third and finally, your approval guarantees an increase in our bills. Granting this permit ensures a $2 million profit for National Grid from our town alone. Utilities have a CapEx bias. 10% guaranteed return on investment and accelerated cost recovery for infrastructure upgrades incentivizes them to embark on these projects, require only, as I said, for getting us ready for hydrogen. The cost of the leak-prone the cost of the leak-prone pipe replacement program across the Commonwealth is expected to rival the cost of the Big D. And our children will be on the hook for those misspent dollars. As a load forecaster, I know how National Grid predicts early adopters of heat pumps, induction stoves, EVs, etc. And I can tell you, our community fits the propensity model. Case in point, for the past several months, my household has consumed 0 therms of gas, but we continue to pay $11.62 every month to National Grid for their delivery. It's a minimum charge that is both the cost of operating the network and their cost recovery for CapEx. I can also tell you that the gas demand curve is already flat or declining. Yet these pipe replacement requests do not reflect a reduction in the capacity of the system in our area. National Grid, in my perspective, has squandered the goodwill of our community and exhausted the patience of residents of our city that deal with the pervasive leaks. Instead of engaging with the savvy and passionate volunteers, as you just saw, Peter, it seems that for National Grid, it's just easier to say that activists are wrong and do not understand the complexity of operating a gas system. It is clear to me that the request made by National Grid is a gas business decision, not a safety and reliability imperative. So I'm asking you to deny this permit and to tell National Grid to fix their leaky pipes. I think they owe it to us. So thank you very much.
Could you give us your name and your position, please?
My name is Enrique Rosero.
Enrique.
Rosero. And I used to be a lead data scientist with the load forecasting team in National Grid.
Yeah, please leave that with us. Oh, thank you so much. Very briefly. Okay, I just wanted to folks online, but go ahead.
Marsha Cooper at 170 Evelyn Road in Robin. I'm a former Garland Road resident.
Anybody here not live on Garland?
But anyway, I live on Evelyn Road and we had gas pipes replaced on Evelyn Road. And there was damage to plantings and there was damage to our sprinkler system as a neighbor 2 doors down had. So the costs that are figured in are really, I don't know, let's say if you add $500 to each home that's damaged. I'm not saying every home has damage of that kind, but the costs are even higher. I'm having heat pumps installed in my home in the next couple of weeks. More and more people in Newton do not want to rely on fossil fuel. We do not want to rely on hydrogen coming through the pipes. We must get off of fossil fuel. Is there anyone who's raised your hand if you think that, oh, oil and gas are really good to use way into the future for our children? You're not going to raise your hand because you all know that it's bad, just downright bad. And so it's up to, we can't rely on the federal government, and that's why it's all the more important right now for local communities to act like it matters. And so I echo the comments of my former neighbors.
Thank you. Okay, Doug Stewart, I think you're next.
Thank you. My name is Doug Stewart. I live at 55 West Pine Street in Auburndale.
Before we go on, we're
Can't hear
gonna
you.
try and make you a little bit louder in the room. If you can turn up your volume, try now.
My name is Doug Stewart. I live at 55 West Pine Street in Auburndale. I'm a member of the Elliott Church United Church of Christ at the corner of Church and Center Street in Newton Corner. We abut the Church Street pipeline replacement project. For 10 years, I represent the Creation Care team at the church. For 10 years, the church has been working to get off of fossil fuels. We have 25 kilowatts of solar panels on the church that provide more than sufficiently for our electricity for the church, and we're heading toward putting heat pumps in. We would like the city not to replace this gas line, but would appreciate any kind of help in helping us move forward with our heat pump situation, if that was available. We would prefer that as a matter of caring for the creation. That's it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is it Eileen Fisher? Or I can't really see. very
Ellen.
well. Or Ellen Fisher.
She's on here.
Did you ask her to unmute?
Yes.
I think you asked me to unmute. I
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, 1 second.
I'm working on. I don't know why she's not.
Ms. Fisher, we cannot hear you.
She's
Yeah,
asking.
because she hasn't.
Can you see that you're being asked to unmute? Did you click on that?
Let me make you a co-host.
Try and unmute now.
Yeah, but she can do it from her side.
You know that down at the bottom of the lower left-hand corner, it says audio. Okay, why don't you fiddle with it a bit while we'll ask, where's the other gentleman? Where did he go?
Was it Doug?
Yeah, that was me.
Yes, why don't you go ahead while Ellen works on her problem?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is John Regison, and I'm a resident of 32 Garland Road. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to provide public comment on this important issue.
Coffee and David, now you can come over.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can,
yeah.
yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm opposed to National Grid's proposal to replace gas lines on Garland Road and elsewhere in the city of Newton. And I believe that National Grid should fulfill its obligations by patching leaks and repairing, I want to say that again, repairing the existing pipes on an as needed basis. And frankly, spending millions of dollars, as we've heard from other folks that were commenting this evening, spending millions of dollars laying new pipe is not consistent with the urgent need to move towards electrification and to meet not only Newton's, but the Commonwealth's 2030, 2040, and 2050 climate and carbon goals. This isn't how we get to net zero by 2050. And I'll close by pointing out that last June, many residents of Garland Road got together to host an event called Ask a Neighbor Sustainable Street Tour. And I think some of you that are participating in this meeting this evening joined us at this event. And during this event, people from all over the city came to talk with neighbors and we also invited experts on Garland Road. And many of the houses on the tour featured heat pumps, electric car charging stations, solar panels, enhanced insulation. And in this context, I think it's particularly ironic that we're now faced with a proposal to replace gas line at the location of Newton's first sustainable street tour. So instead, I would appeal to us all as a community to seize this opportunity to take a more sustainable approach to the project at hand. Again, thank you for the opportunity to provide the comment.
Ellen Fisher, are you able to speak to us now?
Yes, yes,
Excellent.
everything was frozen, but I went out, came back in. I'm good. Thank you for your patience. I am Ellen Fisher. I live on Canterbury Road, a street in one of the original 4 GOLs presented in October. As I mentioned at that meeting, I and many of my neighbors have made improvements to our homes over the years to lessen our use of gas and other energy sources to lessen the environmental impact of our homes. My home now only uses gas for heat. Cooking, laundry, and hot water run on electric. And because of insulation upgrades, we only pay about $1,100 per year for gas heat. Public safety is constantly invoked in the reasoning for pipe replacement, but very large leaks go unfixed year after year because they are not close enough to a house or business. And these large leaks are a significant driver of climate change in aggregate. We're not talking about in Newton, but large leaks in general are a significant public safety issue. And climate change is definitely a public safety issue. These leaks are something we have in our control, and acting on them has the potential to actually mitigate global warming significantly. A 2022 UN report states that cutting human-caused methane by 45% this decade would keep warming beneath a threshold outlined by the Paris Agreement. In the original 4 GOLs, only 8 active leaks. This is something that's been said by other people. There are very, very few leaks in the GOLs. I don't know about the newest one that's been added, but on the older ones, there were only 8. The 2 on my street, one was tiny and the other was considered inactive. So the cost for all 5 of these GOLs is $15 million. Peter Barrett's research showed that even a high volume leak would only cost about $7,500 to repair. 15 million would be far more than the cost of fixing all the active leaks in Newton, including the large leaks that often seem to not be considered an immediate threat. So I'm strongly in the camp of people who want National Grid to fix leaks rather than replace pipes. I am grateful to National Grid for the answers they have provided to the committee, and I'm grateful to this committee for providing a forum for Newton residents and National Gas to discuss these issues. I hope this committee and others like it across the state can help both National Grid and state and federal lawmakers to embrace a broader definition of public safety that places fixing leaks at the top of the choices and considers climate change as a public safety issue. To see that we have now reached a turning point where the greater safety will be provided by fixing leaks whenever possible. And the current path, as other people have said, is applying tremendous costs, estimated eventually to reach about $30 billion to a commodity that is being used less and less over time, costs that will flow to a shrinking set of users. And the eventual likelihood is that taxpayers will be required to cover that cost for a system that is sunsetting. Thank you. That's it.
Ellie Goldberg, I think you're next. Muted, Ellie.
How's that? Is that good? Okay, thank you. I'm Ellie Goldberg. I live at 79 Elmore Street, Newton Center. And I'm here to request that you put a hold on these requests. Imagine repeatedly buying lemonade in a dribble cup. That is like National Grid continuously charging ratepayers for the lost gas, including hundreds of high-volume methane leaks that they've ignored for years, and adding insult to injury, profiting when they add the charges for replacing the pipes. They are using millions of dollars of current and future ratepayer dollars to maintain a dangerous and perpetually polluting pipeline system, obsolete pipes, instead of contributing to the transition to electrification and efficiency. Also, according to a recent report on the future of gas in Massachusetts, using the utility's own data, the price of gas is set to double in the next decade and then continue to rise, whereas the price of electricity is forecast to remain relatively stable. I sent you a PDF of my comments earlier today, and there's links to the press release and the report about those findings. While everyone is worried about the cost of BERDO, I urge you not to continue to tolerate National Grid's diversion of millions of dollars for dangerous and wasteful whack-a-mole pipe segment replacements that don't make us safer and don't reduce emissions. Imagine how much easier it would be to pass the BERDO plan if the National Grid shifted resources to expedite the transition of our buildings to clean thermal sources of energy, energy efficiency, and climate resilience upgrades as called for by the new climate law that the governor signed just yesterday. In Senator Cream's recent newsletter, she wrote, "By preventing gas investments that are both imprudent and contrary to our climate mandates, the bill would keep costs down and prevent wasteful spending of ratepayers' hard-earned money." And our community would also save when gas leaks no longer kill trees and streets are no longer degraded by repeatedly cutting them open and patching them, especially newly paved streets like Applegarth, to accommodate a construction project or when leaks have been paved over. I note National Grid's statement that we have a system of aging cast iron mains susceptible to breaks, cracks, and other failures. National Grid lists a variety of hostile conditions that cause pipe segment leaks and pipe failures. And it says, quote, some in new and unpredictable ways that make the old leaky pipe system increasingly vulnerable and dangerous. So when we talk about safety, I suggest that every threat to pipeline integrity that National Grid lists in its response to the October 23rd questions makes a strong case for retiring the system, not for replacing them. Please review the details of these hostile conditions in my written comments, all of which are likely to get worse and are beyond anyone's capacity to control or mitigate. We do not have to continue to tolerate the risks to life and property and the waste of trying to repair the pipelines. I urge you to review the resolution for a future without gas and for clean heat that city councilors voted for in February 2023. It acknowledges the urgency of reducing the enormous cost and risks of our gas system, and it included suggestions for a citywide plan based on risk and cost analysis of the city's pipelines, so we can use our resources to align with Newton's and Massachusetts climate goals. And I really hope you'll read the longer version of these comments because it's quite a detailed look at the unacceptable risks that we've been living with for too many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cindy Calloway, you are next.
Hi, Cindy Calloway. I live at 83 Grove Hill Avenue. Thank you for taking public comments tonight. As we are moving towards electrification, which should be our goal based on our climate bill from the state, we should be looking at the most efficient way to achieve that. And to do that really is to fix the gas leaks, not replace the pipeline. And I want to thank Peter Barrett for putting all of the effort into this and putting dollars around the costs that we are incurring by replacing pipeline. It's significantly different than the amount that would cost to fix a leak. And we all know that this is where we should be going. I really want to emphasize, bottom line, replacing the gas pipeline is not the answer. Repairing the leaks until we can get off of gas is the answer, and that's the direction we should be going. And I encourage you to keep this on hold. We have the climate bill. We have more power for the city of Newton to be able to push back on National Grid now that we have this climate bill in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more person online, Susan Lyon. Oh, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, so I just found out about this meeting yesterday, so I don't have anything written out. But I would definitely echo the concerns about the gas leaks. Oh, I'm at 367 Woodward Street in Waban. And I'm concerned that there's this map that it's an organization called HEET puts together about the gas leaks in various cities. And some time ago, I looked at data from 2021, and I compared the number of gas leaks that Newton had to other cities of comparable populations. And it really made me wonder why Newton isn't more on top of this, I guess. And certainly makes me not want to replace the gas mains, which is the subject under discussion tonight. But for example, in 2021, which is the most recent data I was able to find, there were 649 unrepaired leaks. And at the time, the population was roughly 84,000 in Newton. And then, some other places that are of comparable populations include Somerville, not exactly the same numbers, but it's 76,000 people, and they had only 161 leaks that were unrepaired. Fall River, population of 92,000 at the time, and they only had 220 unrepaired leaks. So just a quick review of towns of comparable sizes, and other places seem to take it, I don't know if it's more seriously or if it's just more of a priority than Newton. And I think it's very important that we clean up these hazardous leaks that personally frighten me, that I may be driving over something that is leaking out dangerous emissions. So that is the main gist of it. I do think we should repair them and certainly not replace the gas lines. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room that wants to speak? Anybody else online? Okay, shall we look to National Grid for some response before we go into committee?
Yes.
Yes?
Would
you like to respond?
Can I ask
a
question, Madam Chair?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Before we deal with that. I don't think there's a single member of this committee sitting at this table who's not sympathetic and doesn't agree with the idea that we ought to be moving off natural gas. So I'm kind of taking that and positing that as a given. My concern, and I don't know the answer, which is why I'm directing it to you, is what legal authority we have to do this. Because we've all received the memos repeatedly from our law department that say, notwithstanding what we feel, they've been explicit about it, we have very limited authority. Is there something that's changed in the law because of that new bill?
There are things that have changed in the new law, but they don't apply to these requests.
Okay. So I want to be really clear about that because, I respectfully, I think we have an obligation, no matter what we think of the process, I think we can, as I said a moment ago, we can all vehemently disagree with the processes in place with everything about that, but I want to know what our legal authority is. And so I'm hearing you say we have very limited legal authority here.
And according to our law department, we have limited legal authority.
Thank you.
Councilor Vivian.
That has come up over the last few years about our legal authority, and I think there's sometimes when you have to push back against something like that. But I will say, the National Grid's credit, they have been cooperative, they have been communicative, they have answered our questions. And even their general counsel talked about this and said in the spirit of cooperation, they want to work with us. And National Grid could see the writing on the wall. We just had a very extensive climate bill passed that basically makes it very clear that we are phasing out of natural gas. And I don't think hydrogen's on the table anymore. And it also established a public participation office as well to support interveners, which are us and other people, and community engagement. And they're going to fund it as well. So I just want to comment on that, correct? That's what our legal department says. But however, we've been able to make some progress anyway, I think some good progress. And I think we're going to continue to do so despite our law.
I'm not quarreling with that in the least. I think quite the contrary. I think what we've done is very good, very productive. Appreciate a cooperative response. I just want to understand when we vote on these things, what our duty is as elected officials sworn to obey the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the laws of the city. That's all.
Okay, Councilor Kelly.
Thanks, I've been concerned about our legal obligation too, because part of me, like Councilor Larry, has been wanting to vote against these for all the reasons we've heard tonight in the room, and I have been told by the law department that those are not reasons that justify us voting against them. However, Mr. Barrer's rationale for holding them to me tonight that he presented, if it's true, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Some complete drawings were submitted yesterday. That's a problem for me, I think, not on time, not enough time to review. Several of them, it says no published DPW review and recommendation, and I think as a committee, that's a problem for us.
Well, that's in the ordinance that we're supposed to receive a review from DPW.
Right, and we need that in order to make informed decisions here, so I feel comfortable at least holding it tonight based on these reasons, both within the confines of what the law department has told us and information that we've got about the completeness of the submitted materials.
So, I think it would be very useful for you to respond to there's some general principles that were spoken about tonight. You know, repair versus replace was a constantly said theme. The issue of, you know, are you really just doing this so you can send hydrogen through our streets? That's another constant theme. If you could just start with those two, I think that would help.
Sure. I'll start with hydrogen. And so in Massachusetts, National Grid has no plans to blend hydrogen into the street. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has made it clear that they do not want that to happen. And that is not the reason why we're replacing these pipes. We're replacing the pipes because they're old, they are brittle, they are prone to breakage. Even if they don't have active leaks on them, many of them have had leaks in the past, and they will continue to leak until they're replaced. And so it's not a matter of just fixing existing leaks. What we're trying to do is prevent new leaks from occurring, but also the risk of that pipe breaking unpredictably and causing an incident which could result in harm to people or property. And so we have an obligation under federal law to have a distribution integrity management plan to manage the risk on our system. And it's in one of the responses, so we don't have to go through all the sites and the details, but they're in there. And one of the biggest risks we have on our system is this leak-prone pipe, the cast iron, and the unprotected bare steel pipe. So it's older steel pipe that was put in the ground before cathodic protection was developed, a way of keeping the pipe from corroding, and the pipe is just rusting in the ground. There are more holes in pipe, we put clamps around them, and the pipe is not repairable anymore. It gets to a point where there's just nothing you can do with it. And the cast iron, again, it unpredictably can break. I gave you some links to some federal reports about cast iron breakage incidents across the country, excuse me. The probability that it'll occur is low, but when it does, the outcome is catastrophic. And so we have an obligation as the owners of those assets to ensure that they are safe, that the people of Newton are safe and knowledgeable. So while fixing gas leaks is also extraordinarily important, and again, to get to that, we agree with you. We need to fix more gas leaks, and in fact, this year in Newton, we reduced the backlog of unfixed leaks by over a third in the city. So by the end of the year, I think we will have repaired over 300 leaks in Newton, including some very large leaks on Northampton Road that people have been complaining about for years, on big diameter cast iron pipe that we would never replace, right? The bigger pipe is fine, it can stay in the ground, it's not brittle, it's not gonna break. But those repairs are extraordinarily expensive. They're not your average $7,000 leak repair, but about hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair those leaks. And we absolutely want to spend money. We want to fix the smaller leaks as well. We fixed all of the hazardous leaks right away. We fixed, it was 169 spray one leaks on average every year. We fixed the grade 2s are the next hazardous level of leak. They're not hazardous today, but expected to become hazardous within 12 months. And we repaired those. And then we have the big leaks, I think people call them, or the grade 3 significant environmental impact leaks. That's the state definition, SEI, not the term. And so we do fix those. Also, we're required to do it, and we do it in accordance with the rules of the timeline to fix those leaks or to replace the main that the leaks are on. And that we work very closely with DPW to try and get the permits. Occasionally we have leaks that are hard to access, they're on the railroad tracks, or they're in tough locations, and they may, as long as we have a legitimate reason, and they can take a little bit longer. We rules allow, but I think we have final tuning, which, and we're very closely with our DPW here to work on those. And while repair, I'd rather repair than replace, the issue is we have pipe that isn't repairable anymore. If you think about it, think about your car, right? Or think about the tires on your car, you know, you get a nail in your tire, you pull it out, there's a hole. The mechanic says they can plug the top, they can plug the hole and you can keep using the tire, it has good tread. But eventually that tire is gonna wear and get the nail in the tire and you bring it in, the mechanic says, I can put a hole in it, but these tires evolve. Like you shouldn't be driving on them, they're not safe anymore. At that point, you gotta have new tires. And so this pipe, some of it is over 200 years old that's in the system.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, right, it's this particular pipe is 120-year-old range. It has lived its useful life. Now, could we electrify? It's a great question. We want to electrify. In fact, we've been engaged in some conversations with folks here in Newton and with the owner of the electric system here, Eversource, on what we could do to at least start to try and pilot some projects in Newton. So, hey, Garland Road, you'd like us to come talk to you? We'll come talk to you and see whether or not, like, could that be a good option? The issue is, how long is it gonna take to get everybody on the street to agree? Does Eversource have enough electricity, or do they have to upgrade their electric system? That adds cost to the job, it adds time to the job. Meanwhile, we've got older pipe that's risky and could potentially break and cause a hazard to the home and to the family. And so we take that responsibility seriously. It's not about taking advantage of a situation. It's not about the ability to earn money. It truly is about our concern that we want your streets and your homes to be safe. If fixing the leaks would remove the risk, we would do that. Fixing leaks would eliminate the emission. It doesn't reduce the risk of the pipe.
So two questions. Will you continue to fix leaks at the same rate you did last year? You reduced the backlog by a large number. Will you do that again this year?
That's our intention, and we're happy to work with you on that. And if you have particular leaks that you find troubling, if you mentioned there's one on one piece of Garland Road that's been there a while, I'm happy to take a look at where that leak is, what it is, how long it's been there. I can see if I can get the crew to come repair it. I don't have an issue, except if we're fortunate enough to get the grant here, and we're gonna replace the pipe. I wouldn't want spending money to fix the leaks on site that's in one place isn't good, but more time, right? So if I thought that pipe could stay in the ground for another perhaps 2 to 3 years, time to work with the neighborhood, work with Eversource, see if we could cut the gas main off and electrify. I'm not saying it would be a good option. The issue is time. Okay.
So that sort of was my second question. Could you, I don't know what the reasons why you picked that little nub of Garland Road, or maybe you can talk about that, but might it be possible, I know that we have been talking about finding some pilots in Newton. Might it be possible that Garland Road could be a pilot?
So it's the risk of the pipe that we've rated, it's the performance of that pipe over time. It's the size, it's the cast off, it's the smaller diameter cast iron that is risky. And we feel that the best, from a safety perspective, that the best solution is to take it out of the ground today and put new pipe in. It's a small segment off of the rest of the pipe, but the engineering review determined that the risk score for that pipe dictated that it would come out of the ground. If you came back tomorrow and said, everybody, I've knocked on all my neighbors' doors and they're all willing to go buy a heat pump and upgrade their homes and electrify, because right now there isn't a framework or a mechanism out there that even allows me to consider how you would pay for that. So that's the other important thing for a lot of folks, $40, $50, $60, and $100,000 to do the upgrade work to your home to prepare it for electricity. And it's not just the appliances, it's the duct work in older homes, right? There might be other conditions that exist or other work that would have to be done to the building inspector to allow you to put the walls back up in their house, once we take them down, ductwork, or fences, or mold that need to be abated, other things, just saying that there's cost to you, the homeowner. We're in discussions right now with other stakeholders who are involved in clean energy transition issues to talk about how we can possibly help homeowners offset some of these costs that are gonna be necessary to do that, but right now, if I wanted to pay for everything to electrify your house, or Eversource was gonna pay for everything to electrify your house, at first I need to propose something to the DPU, they would have to pre-approve the funding for that. It would be months, right? I first I put my filing together, I propose it. The DPU would sit at the DPU for 6 months, people would interview, they'd ask a lot of questions, maybe a year or two later, they'd give me a decision that said, great. Here you go, you can charge all your other customers to fund the electrification of Garland Street. In the meantime, that main continues to deteriorate. So if the main were in better condition, and I said, you know what, 10 years from now, that's a great prospect, we have plenty of time. I'm concerned that may stay in the ground for much longer, or that risk just continues to grow. So
President Moreno, you have.
So I got a couple of questions here. The existing gas links, how many do we have in the city?
do you have the total? Do you guys have that now?
Grade 1 gas leak.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have about you get about 165 grade 1s a year, about 55 grade 2s, new ones. And then the backlog, that 800 number, that means has more. Is at the top of the list of the number of things we have, the members publicly stated that was an accurate statement. It's because of the system, it's not because of the size of the city or because Newton doesn't care. But it's about, this year, I think we started off the year with about that 100 and that we fixed 300.
Okay, so the tier 1 get fixed right away. Tier 2 get fixed right away.
Within 6 to 12 months.
Okay, not fast enough, but at least within a period of time. Your tier 3 has had 800, you knocked it down to
I think
500.
it's about 5, but let me get you.
And you get on average another 150 a year or so new ones.
They just, yes, we'll continue to get them, fixing the existing ones.
You're gonna get new ones every year, I understand that, but what's your plan over the next 2 years or so, or 3 years to eliminate the backlog?
Eliminate, so
To
again,
eliminate,
so I don't know that we would ever get to 0, because for every leak we fix, because the pipe is aging, another 2 leaks pop up.
And then the 3s become 2s and the 2s become 1s.
alright,
And you
so.
hate to just say that, but
I'm not
Cold
looking,
weather does
I'm
it.
not looking for 0, but I'm looking for close. So how long is that gonna be?
But I don't have that plan with me today, but I.
Would you provide that to us in writing, please?
But is it true that for every one you fix, you get 2 new ones, in which case you're never gonna catch up?
Well, no, we have to get ahead of them faster and at some point, right, or we replace the main and we slow down.
Well,
the rate of the-
alright, so you just made the statement that every year you get 2 leaks for every one you fix. Over the last 5 years, how many new leaks per year have we had at level 3?
I don't know that.
Again, I think that would be, if to back up the statement you just
Right.
made, we need to see a history of probably the last 7 years. How many leaks you're getting every year? And if that number is increasing from 100 to 200 to 300,
Yeah.
that's indicative of exactly what you're saying. If it's the same, then it's not. So I think we need that information.
Yep, I can show you that, and if I may, I would also like to provide you with temperature data year over year. Because the number of new leaks is also, it also correlates with temperature and changes in temperature. And so you see in years when it's colder, you're gonna have more leaks. And in years when it's warmer, you're gonna get slightly fewer, but it helps you to understand.
Then go
the
back
patterns.
15, you need to, okay, just long enough so you're giving an accurate chart for us. So we can understand that and include in there, if you would, the average, if there's some easy way of including degrees, so we can, again, we're making very broad statements here, I'm not doubting them, but I wanna be able to verify. And I can't verify it without backup data.
Chris, and we are, I can reiterate, I think you said in the letter. We are happy to provide any information that you would like about the gas system in your city, weak information, history, plans going forward. Right, we would be hopeful that we could at some point sort of divorce these types of questions and inquiries from the specifics of the requests here. I understand why people want to have them here, but if you ask us, we, at any time, we will provide that information. You don't need to wait till you have us sitting here at the table with the grammar location. I don't think we've ever.
It's easier having you sitting next to me and turning to you. It's do this for me, so I appreciate
Right,
that.
and we've even talked about, I just talked to Councilor Albright as well. We're happy to come in and do a presentation on gas leaks and the history, open that up. Anyone who's interested in the city wants to learn more about it, what's going on.
We're all exceptionally concerned about it. We're concerned there's a backlog. We want to get it taken care of. May I ask one follow-up?
Yeah, but, well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilor Gentile's been waiting. for
I'll
quite a
let
while.
him go first.
Yeah, let him,
Fine.
let him
Thank
go.
you.
Councilor Gentile?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of you have heard me in the past talk about my childhood home in West Newton that I still own. I just want to bring you up to date and invite you to come by and see the many insulation improvements that were recently made, including an extreme amount of new insulation in the attic. My 20 new triple pane windows that are now installed, and my fully electrified heat pump new HVAC system that will be replacing the original oil system. So I mentioned those things before and they're done. But I wanted to talk about the issue that's in front of us tonight. These requests have been in front of us for about a month and a half. We took public comment when we first heard the items, and we've taken public comment again tonight. I just wanted to urge us to vote up or down so that we can move this to the full council. I really hope that we don't hold it again. I don't know what we're going to gain by holding it. While I didn't appreciate the preface when National Grid answered the questions, they should have just answered them and not told us that they didn't have to answer them, but they did. And the bottom line is you either agree and believe with what they're saying, or you just don't believe what they're saying. And if that's the case, then you can go ahead and vote against it. I can understand that for some people, it's time, we're at the point where they want to draw the line in the sand, regardless of the legal advice that we've gotten. And, you can go ahead and do that. I respect that. But dragging this out, and it's not just these items, this subject has come up repeatedly in this committee over the years. I've been on this committee for a long time, and you have to admit these four items, it's not the first time that we have had this kind of a discussion. So I happen to believe the argument that doing the work that is proposed here in this day and age, right now, not in 2050, but right now, it will make the city of Newton safer than it is, and it'll make the city safer than just repairing leaks, because we get told repeatedly that, yeah, you can fix a leak, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have, additional leaks down the line because these pipes are too old and they're too brittle and so forth. So I'm not telling you to believe it. I'm saying that I am ready to vote on this. I'm going to vote in favor of it. because I believe it'll make us safer in 2024 and 2025. And if others of you, decided that you don't want to, you want to vote against it, fine, I respect that. But let's not keep dragging this along is all I'm asking. And I'd be happy to make a motion right now and to vote to move all 4 items.
It's fine to put a motion on the floor and then we continue to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. All right, so can I make a motion to approve all of them since?
Absolutely make that motion.
All right, so I'm gonna move to approve the 4 items that are in front of us today. I believe it's 4, right?
5.
5, the 5 items that are in front of us tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Daglian, would you like to say, your hand is up?
Yeah, if you could clarify something for me, I thought I heard someone say that DPW did not provide review comments. In actuality, we provided review comments in every filing in the OpenGov portal.
But not on the city website. I looked and looked, didn't find them for those 2 locations.
Did you look in OpenGov?
Yes.
In the system?
Yes.
So somehow they didn't
For
make it to
Canterbury
the,
Road project and for the Western.
I just logged on and I looked at it again. It's under the tab that says details and there's comments and recommendations for every grant location that we've reviewed.
okay. Okay, and what, with respect to the Center Street plans that you just got yesterday, were you able to add comments based on those plans?
Yeah, the comments would not change much because it's actually just shows the various locations that they're providing the replacement. The comments would be consistent with those that they're proposing for the sheets that were not provided in that package.
Okay.
So nothing would change from our side.
Thank you. So before I call on Councilor Leary, I just want to say that we are very fortunate that we have the ear and the I don't know, the voice of Amy Smith, who's been willing to meet with Ann Berwick and myself since last spring. And we've begun a meeting monthly to see where can we carry this idea of retiring pipes and electrification. And Amy has been very forthcoming in saying, they've already produced a document which we talked about, but we haven't seen it yet, with 5 streets that they've talked about where they could abandon pipes and replace them with electrification. We don't know the details yet of how that would happen. You're gonna go back and look for more streets. And I think you've been very willing to come back to us and discuss what's something that's very near and dear to Council Leary's heart, which is a plan for electrification. Whether it's over 20 years or 30 years or what it takes, but can we begin to talk about a plan for Newton's electrification? And I think Amy's willing to talk about that with us. And I think so for that reason, I think we're extremely fortunate that you're here with us and wanting to move forward with us, and I thank you for that.
And also just with my colleagues at Eversource as well, with Gerhard Walker and his team, who we need very much to develop an electrification plan, because I can cut off gas main, but we need to make sure there's electricity there before we go start cutting it off, so that people have ways to have energy to their homes. And so it really is a collaborative process. We're waiting on some decisions from DPU to help facilitate that right now. We're actually not allowed to share data that we need between utilities to make electrification analysis available. And so we're hopeful before the end of the year that the DPU will present that waiver to us or approve that for us, and then we'll be able to start moving forward and actually do real work. So we've got a few barriers beyond our immediate control right now to move forward, but we're doing as much as we can. And I am happy to take a look at Garland Road again and see if that in fact presented an opportunity, since so many people here are interested in that. I wouldn't want to lose the opportunity to have motivated people, because I think the hardest part of this energy transition is going to be working with the people who live in the homes and the businesses. We're going to have to make that decision to convert and what that's going to mean for them, and be able to help subsidize those costs. So starting with motivated, willing people is half the battle.
So I wanted to say one more thing before we go back to the councils, and that is that as I understand it, the DPU has asked Eversource and yourself and other gas companies to make a plan, to start plans and start pilots for electrification. But you're all doing it in places where you provide both the gas and the electricity. So Amy is willing to step outside of that requirement to come to us because, in fact, National Grid doesn't provide the electricity in Newton, but they're still willing to come to us and think about a pilot. So I thank you again for that. So I'm gonna call on Councilor Banbury first. She hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah. And thank you for coming and thank you for answering the questions. It goes a long way toward, our understanding of where we are. The comment was made earlier that everyone in the room wants to ultimately get off of fossil fuel, and I'm sure that includes all of you. You work for a utility and need to, strike balance here, I understand that too. And the danger of fixing one and having two pop up in old and crumbling pipe. But Newton has the goal of 2050 for essentially becoming carbon neutral. And that's going to mean pretty much getting off of natural gas and oil and having the phase out well underway by that time. Do you have a sunset? You must understand that this is a trend and that not only Newton, but other communities are attempting to do this. Does the gas company have an internal plan that you could share the general idea of with us tonight of what kind of sunset date might you have on phasing out natural gas? You are proposing that for safety reasons, and I understand that we replace rather than repair certain pipes. And that will be at the cost of the taxpayer. And that will presumably be abandoned when the phase out happens. Would you just speak to that about a sunset and the abandonment prospect?
Sure. So there are two plans right now, and things are converging. So on the electric side, there's something called the ESMP, or the electric system modernization plan, that every electric investor-owned electric company, so the three companies in Massachusetts, which are Eversource, National Grid, and Unitil, each have an electric system modernization plan that they filed with the DPU on what they need to do to upgrade their electric system. The gas companies will all be filing on April 1st of this year our climate compliance plans, which will show our roadmap, right, for how we are going to hit the state's decarbonization goals by transitioning our gas system through electrification options over time. So we're all working on it. I can't give you a date by which we think the last molecule will flow through the pipes. And in some areas that might be hard to electrify. There may always be some portions of the gas system there. But what we're coming together is in something called integrated energy plan. And so there's going to be a working group that is kicking off. I believe it'll be sometime early next year, but will bring stakeholders together to actually to build this framework for integrated energy planning, so that, again, as I know how Eversource is building out the electric system in Newton, and I know where I have pipe to replace, I then can coordinate, right, my plans with Eversource's plans based on what they need to do to build out the network in Newton. And so I'll have to keep an eye on that risky pipe that I'm worried about. I'm gonna have to do some replacement for some period of time. But ultimately, the goal really is I'm gonna say, Newton, here, I'm gonna say Eversource, here's the pipe I need to replace now. Do you have electric capacity there? If you don't, when will you have it? I need to go start talking to customers, or you need to start talking to customers, and we have to figure out who's paying for all this, right? Is it the gas company, the electric company, some combination of the two? We're gonna, a lot of proposals, a lot of hearings, a lot of dockets at the state level, they're gonna figure this all out. So can I tell you, do I have a goal? We have a statutory obligation by 2050 to hit the 21N emissions reduction targets that are built into Massachusetts state law. We have to reduce emissions on our gas system by 92% from 1990 levels by 2050. Right, so that's a legal obligation, and so I have to, right, we have to figure out how we have to do that. There are buildings emission reduction targets in this chapter 21N emissions target requirements, and they're, if you Google, you know, Mass Law 21N emissions or something, they'll pop up with DOER, or Mass DOT has documents that actually tell you exactly what it means for the different sectors of the economy that need to reduce emissions to hit the state targets. And so we're building those plans now, but there's always a big question mark. I could say I want to decommission X% of my gas system every year for the next several years. I also need to know where the electric capacity is going to be. And those plans are in the development stage now. So maybe ask me next year, and I can probably give you a better answer. But I don't want to tell you now, yep, we can give you everything I'm gonna do between now and 2050, and here's where we're gonna be. But we're required to have this, yeah. So that's what I'm saying is, and then the plans are updated on, I don't remember, do you know how often the S&P is updated? I know the climate compliance plans on the gas side, we have to file them every 5 years with the DPU, the first one being on April 1st of 2025. So that's a struggle.
Another question that I have based on what you just told me, thank you very much, about the 90% required reduction by the 92% by 2050. If you will the company be able to reduce by 92% and still function as a gas company? Or is that does that 92% reduction mean that you're essentially gonna put gas out of business?
Is this part of the bigger conversation?
It's a bigger-
Yeah.
It's not a big question. Yes, I know that's a big question, but.
So you're
Keep going.
Reserve that, when you get to your question, it is,
All right.
it's an interesting question and worthwhile discussing.
Yeah,
Probably.
okay, all right, I'll withdraw the question.
But don't bother, yeah.
Be here till tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be snowing.
Yes, let's.
Counselor Kelly and then Counselor Getz and then Counselor Leary is dying to ask something.
I'm gonna be quick. I understood when you said, let's divorce these bigger topics from the issues at hand.
Yes.
Like that question. Which I agree with. On the other hand, I think for us, or at least for me, understanding this and the background and the context of it is really important when we make these individual decisions. I will probably vote against these tonight, because I've had a long-standing commitment to that, and I find that the arguments that we're hearing convincing. And I hope that my vote that way doesn't put us in any legal jeopardy down the road. And I just want, my other comment is, do you have anything, any perspective or facts, things that you wanted to say that didn't get covered by Amy that are important for us to hear before we wrap this up?
I would just give my
Because you all
opinion.
came and thank you very much.
My opinion with everything that's been stated and how everybody feels about gas and not wanting it. This is an interesting forum to tell us, but it should really be said to the DPU where policies are made. We can't undo what we're mandated to do, and state law and regulations mandate us to fix them, to make people safe. We can't shut them off. If 25 people want to get off gas, but there's 3 that need to stay on it, guess what? It's staying on. Because we're not allowed to leave someone without service.
I think the new law might have something to say about that, the new law that was just signed by the governor. might give you more latitude.
Well, I don't know that they're gonna allow us I mean, even to the degree of if someone hasn't paid their bill and they owe $50,000. If it's November 15th, we can't touch it.
Right.
Their heat stays on,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So things like that, where the big picture is coming, we all see it. We've had goals for many years. We have consent rules with fixing bridges and fixing areas, where we pay fines because we can't get it done in time. That's all behind the scenes, but this just plays into it. And to be able to say, yeah, we'd love to just be able to do what everybody wants, but we can't. Because there's other people that would be left behind, and by the law, we're not allowed to leave them
Thank
there.
you for reminding us of that perspective. Mary, how about you? You take the brunt of us all the time. So
No,
what do you
that's
get to say now that you're in front of us?
No, it's welcome, all the opinions, and it's educational, and you know, we all have the same goals. However, I'm not bewitched, and there's National Grid, so we can't just take that pipe out, so it's keeping the customers and not even non-customers safe. That's my, I really know the pipe, yeah, it's scary.
I think we all really appreciate your willingness to come back and talk more about it from a bigger perspective and planning and long range, and I think that's really important, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Getz.
Yeah, I, two things, I actually appreciate you coming and the openness and the responding to the questions that were submitted, many thanks. And I, would suggest that we, as a committee, consider the ability to comment on the comment bill, because it's open for public comment now.
Yes.
So I think it would be important for us to, and I was looking at the date of our next meeting, but I do think that it would behoove us to spend some time looking at that and making as a committee, a comment.
Well, maybe I would be happy, and I'm sure Councilor Leary would be happy. Maybe some of us could get a draft together and bring it, rather than trying to work it through as a committee at a meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I do think it's important for us to take advantage of this open period, to submit comment. Because I think that, I'm just learning from Mr. Berger that we have the opportunity to comment, and I think it would be beneficial for us as a community to make that comment.
I agree.
Okay.
Councilor Leary, finally.
Thank you. I also want to share my appreciation for you coming in person and being so open and communicative. It's really, really important to us, and certainly to me. I have been asking for a citywide plan so that we could have more of this type of conversation with you for several years now. And I ran into the law department about that. So I'm really happy to hear that you're open to listening, and I'm also very grateful the new climate law. I actually had written a statement that I was gonna send everybody, but it was close to 5 o'clock, and I just figured, well, you'll get it later. But I did want to say how important that new climate law is, and that some of the things that I really like about it is that it will require or establish public participation. And when you're making decisions about whether to replace gas pipes, whether you're going to fix them, whether you're going to retire them, the climate law now requires that you have to consider all the costs and benefits, right, including ratepayers, consistency with climate plan goals. You have to consider if it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and you must consider climate friendly alternatives to leak prone pipes instead of just replacing them with new gas pipes. And you're absolutely right about the DPU, and we have some great advocates in the room with us as well as around the state. Future Without Gas, Mothers Out Front, Green Newton have all been working and at the state level and with making comments on the GSEP plan, which back in 2014, which incentivized, that we just replaced leaks. Is that we realized later that was really a colossal mistake. And that's sort of, I think, where people's heads are still are, that it's all about replacement, because it was all about replacement. I know that now the DPU will be required to evaluate whether gas pipe expansion furthers the Commonwealth's climate goals or creates stranded assets with high costs for ratepayers. and whether an alternative to gas service could be provided that still offers substantially similar service. So essentially, it removes customers' automatic right to say yes to gas. It has to go through the DPU now. So there's a lot of opportunities now. This is my understanding of it so far. It's a deep read. It's 136 pages. And
Interpretations that are. out there.
yes,
So it's
okay.
always interesting.
So
to
I'm
hear
sure I'll
how
be learning more and I'm
people
open to learning more. And I totally understand the complexity of what we're talking about. It's gonna be a very, very difficult to do this transition, but we have to do it. We have to do it. And that's why back in 2013, why I ran for office, because climate change kept me up at night and I knew that we could work locally. So I'm gonna be either docketing an item about establishing a working group here in Newton that would participate in these plans for the future in a very cohesive way where we're kind of looking at everything. So that's kind of just what I wanted to say. And that I'm feeling very much more optimistic about that. Just a quick question, in terms of the gas safety, I understand where you're coming from, and to me, it's a real balance, but I also am very concerned that, you know, we have 3 grade 1 gas leaks a week. And those are potentially life-threatening explosive. Nonantic Street still smells like gas.
We're working there though.
Well, they have been, because I live near there and I was riding my bike along, but that's been smelling like gas for 25 years. It's not smelling, not quite as strong, but it's a very complicated, you know, old infrastructure, I get it.
Yes.
I'd also like to learn more about the risk score when you come before us, okay, and how you figure that out. And that would be good information for us to know. I want to say that I agree with my colleague, Councilor Gentile, on many areas. I do think we should do a yes or a no vote. Mine will be a no. I am still working to push for getting this plan to work until we have a citywide plan. That's when I'll start voting yes on the Grantsville location. Plus, I was convinced also, like my colleague, that there was some convincing arguments for Gardner Street, for example, for not to do it. But thank you very much.
Mr. Barrow, it's still open, so just a few words.
Just a few words. I've heard a lot of talk about what you can do, what the legal city can do. And I would like to get copies of what the arguments are. The letter from National Grid's attorney referred to a communication from the city. I'd like to see that communication.
I think I have it. I mean, really, I do have
I
that.
think we just have to ask, I think it was sent to us
post that?
confidentially. We have to ask, we have to ask him for that.
I'm gonna be confidential and then also supply to the National Grid.
Well, I can't answer that question.
It's just a question of authority. The authority runs aligns with the Department of Public Utilities who regulates the gas companies. That's the argument. And that we don't have the authority to, that's considered regulation. That's what I heard from
But I
the
want,
administration.
can I see our attorneys?
I can ask.
We will ask,
Yeah.
we will ask Attorney Lee if we can please release that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has to do with the chain of communication in the system, but we will ask him.
Thank you.
Did you still have something? No, you're all set. Okay, anybody else?
I just wanted to make sure that you will be able to add the risk score on grants and locations coming also as part of the information. That's
On the
something.
grant
we can-
location?
When they're submitted.
When you
to
make
put
it,
the
it's
risk
part of your
score.
decision, right, on how you're gonna decide
When you
whether or not.
prioritize.
Why they're doing the
Yeah, we
pipe?
file, we
Yeah.
file them in the GSEC
Yeah.
document for public information, so we could, you know, I found to get object to adding them.
Yes.
Yes.
To the application, I was.
No, just as the description of the
That's what I think,
information.
I think we're ready to vote. Yep. So Counselor Gentile has moved approval of all 5 items. Oh, yeah, we have to close the public hearing. All those in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Anybody against that? Abstentions? So the public hearing is closed. And now we have a motion to approve all 5 items. Is there anybody else that needs to say anything about that? Okay, so all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So how many is that? 4. Opposed? 1, 2. And abstentions? So there's 2 abstentions. Kelly, Leary.
Two opposed.
Oh, 2 opposed, sorry, and 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
Yes, it's still absent.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
all of you,
you.
and thank you very much for coming
Thank
today.
you for all your comments.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yes.